It's Monday, February 13th. I'm Tre'vell Anderson.
And I'm Josie Duffy-Rice, and this is What a Day, where we picked the exact wrong week to launch our official WAD weather balloon.
We are trying to replace the groundhog and let the groundhog retire. And so we thought we'd try this out.
Yeah, it's going to be 6 more weeks of winter. On today's show, Turkish authorities have arrested building contractors as the death toll from last week's earthquake continues to mount. Plus, a former Trump appointee is expected to run against her old boss for the Republican nomination.
But first, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's a quote-unquote unidentified aerial object. And for the record, I'm not talking about the suspected Chinese spy balloon we mentioned on the show last week. Over the weekend, there were reports of at least 3 other floating thingamajiggies that have been shot down out of North American airspace over the last week or so.
Yeah, I don't love this, personally. It's not my favorite thing. Can you tell us what is happening?
Yes. Inquiring minds definitely want to know, but the details are kind of slim here. And I should say that many headlines have been using the acronym UFO to describe these floating items. UFO stands for Unidentified Flying Object. But when I think of UFO, I think of alleged life on Mars or something, little green people that I've been told are UFOs. And so for our discussion today, I'm going to use thingamajiggy and thingamabobbin interchangeably here, okay? Because that feels more appropriate, okay?
I could not agree more.
So on Friday, there was another object that was floating over northern Alaska that President Biden ordered to be destroyed. It had a car-sized payload and was flying at just 40,000 feet, which is roughly the same altitude that regular commercial flights fly at. The Pentagon noted that it does not resemble in any way the surveillance balloon from China that was shot down last week, but that's all they're kind of really saying about it. And then later that same night, another thingamabobbin was detected over Alaska. After that thing drifted into Canadian airspace, President Biden and Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau jointly agreed to shoot that one down. According to Canada's Minister of Defense, this one was described as similar to the Chinese balloon, though it was smaller in size and cylindrical.
Okay, so that's 2 thingamajiggies in one day, by the way, in addition to the balloon from last week. So what was the third thingamabobbin?
So yesterday, right as the Super Bowl was beginning, reports surfaced that yet another entity had been shot out of the air, this one over Lake Huron in Michigan. Turns out that the object had actually first been detected on radar on Saturday over Montana, but it disappeared, leading officials to conclude that it was an anomaly. But on Sunday, a blip appeared once more over Montana, then Wisconsin and Michigan, and once military officials had visual confirmation, it was shot down. Now, the question still remains here, right? What the hell is going on with all the stuff that y'all are spotting in the sky? And there really is just a lot of uncertainty here.
Right.
But in light of what we now know about the original spy balloon, the Chinese, surveillance balloon, people are concerned. And that's because officials have officially linked that first balloon to a massive surveillance program run by the Chinese government that has involved aircrafts that have been spotted over 5 out of the 7 continents. So we can't confirm yet whether these latest thingamajiggies and thingamabobbins are also part of that Chinese scheme, but people are worried. We should, though, talk about the political reactions to these various thingamajiggies. What were some of the reactions after the first thingamabobbin on Friday, Josie?
As you may remember, after last week's Balloon Gate, the Republicans were fairly upset. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, always extremely reasonable, that's sarcasm, if you didn't catch it, went so far as to suggest that Democrats secretly don't care about Chinese spy balloons, saying the Biden administration would have, quote, let it go on its merry way, not tell Congress, not tell the American people, and certainly not shoot it down if it hadn't been spotted. on Friday, when unidentified thingamabobbin number 1 was shot down, again, that was the one over Alaska, Republicans were not satisfied by the fact that the Biden administration had apparently changed their approach due to the fact that the second balloon, while smaller than the first, was flying at 40,000 feet and therefore a risk to planes, according to the administration. Quote, I'm trying to understand why this much smaller, by their own admission, much less capable balloon with a much smaller payload was deemed such a threat that the other one wasn't, Representative Michael Waltz of Florida said. And it can't just be the altitude.
It's always so interesting when people who don't have an expertise in a certain area start talking about the motivations for decisions. You either want them to shoot the balloons down or you don't.
Right.
Like, pick and choose.
Right.
What's going on?
Right. Yeah, so everybody's kind of playing politics and nobody totally knows what's going on.
Right. So now what? We're on unidentified balloon UFO thingamabobbin number 3, all told. What are the two sides of the aisle saying about that?
Yeah, well, Tre'vell, there's been a fair amount of confusion these past few days. So here's Senator Jon Tester of Montana interviewed on CBS's Face the Nation Sunday morning. This is before thingamabobbin number 3 was shot down.
Late Saturday, NORAD and Northcom said there was a radar anomaly over your state, which is why airspace was closed. Was it a false alarm, or is there an object over Montana?
Well, I think the investigation is still going on as we speak. The truth is that there was an anomaly, and they've investigated. I think it got dark last night, so they couldn't fully check it out. I'm sure as we speak, it's being checked out right now.
I gotta say, I'm going to need my senators to know a little bit more. It's just not giving confidence. Though Tester was hesitant to say he knew exactly what was going on above Montana with thingamabobbin 3, he expressed some confidence that China was involved with the object shot down in Alaskan airspace, i.e. thingamabobbin 1.
You think this was China?
I don't know. I don't know that it's China. We will find out later on if, in fact, it was affiliated with the Chinese Communist government or not. But the bottom line is that I think we need to take these things seriously. I think the president and I think, more importantly, the military are taking them very, very seriously. And to back that up, I think through the appropriations process and the Defense Committee, we're going to make sure that they're taking it seriously. So the checks and balances will be there as we move forward. But like I said, this has been a phenomenon that we haven't had recently, where we've had other countries that have went into our airspace for the purpose of trying to gather information on what we're doing here in the United States.
And look, this seems to be an area where Democrats and Republicans likely agree. They share concerns that China is involved in more than just the balloon from last week. But regardless of whether China is responsible for all or just last week's balloon, that's enough for many Republicans, especially, as you can imagine. So here's Texas Representative Michael McCall. He was also on Face the Nation on Sunday.
When I saw the sites that it was flying over, it was very clear to me this was an intentional act. It was done with provocation to gather intelligence data and collect intelligence on our 3 major nuclear sites in this country. Why? Because they're looking at what is our capability in the event of a possible future conflict in Taiwan. I think it was very much an act of belligerence on their part, and perhaps they don't care what the American people think about that.
Ultimately, the bottom line is that politicians on both sides seem to be mainly suspecting China at this point, not aliens. I mean, I'm still worried about aliens, but apparently they're not. It's important to keep in mind, like, this is all over one weekend, right? But it doesn't actually seem to be the first time that we've had these unidentified flying objects over American airspace. According to The Hill, quote, a senior Pentagon official told reporters last week that Chinese government surveillance balloons hovered over the continental U.S. at least 3 times during the Trump administration. Officials from the Trump administration have denied that, but it certainly seems that this is not a totally unprecedented event. So we will keep you updated on this developing story, but that is the latest for now.
Let's get to some headlines.
Headlines.
More than 33,000 people are now confirmed dead across Turkey and Syria following last week's catastrophic earthquake and aftershocks. Though some survivors have been pulled from the rubble over the past few days, officials with international rescue teams say the likelihood of finding more people alive is quickly dwindling. Rescuers themselves continue to grapple with extreme cold and growing fatigue. Meanwhile, Turkish authorities have issued over 100 arrest warrants for contractors linked to buildings that collapsed in the quake. At least a dozen people have been taken into custody so far, but critics of Turkey's president are calling the investigation a distraction. They say that widespread corruption and the rush toward development in earthquake-prone areas contributed to the disaster.
The aftermath of last week's train derailment in Ohio continues. The EPA said this weekend that the train's operator, Norfolk Southern, may be on the hook to pay for the cost of cleaning up the disaster. Several cars on the train were carrying toxic and extremely volatile chemicals, forcing emergency officials to release it into the air to prevent an explosion. Though people living near the site have since been allowed to return home, questions remain about whether the toxins are still lingering in the air and whether any of it has leached into nearby waterways. The company has not yet responded to the EPA's findings, though it has offered to cut a check for $25,000 total to help the 5,000 people impacted by the incident. Meanwhile, federal investigators say the derailment was triggered by a mechanical issue on one of the train's rail axles. A union representing Norfolk Southern rail workers said it was, quote, years in the making, and accused the company of skipping out on maintenance and overworking its employees in order to cut costs. Seems worth mentioning that this was the main subject of the railway strike just weeks ago.
And speaking of the EPA, the agency announced it will start cleanup projects at 22 federal Superfund sites. From an environmental standpoint, Superfund sites are the worst of the worst and require the most intense remediation and resources. The agency announced on Friday it's getting another round of funding thanks to last year's massive infrastructure bill to tackle those projects, including a cool $1 billion to clean up lead contamination in Atlanta. The money will also be used to help speed up 100 other ongoing projects across the country.
Donald Trump's sleep paralysis demon just got a little more powerful. Florida lawmakers passed a bill on Friday giving Governor Ron DeSantis more control of what used to be Disney's special tax district in the state. After the company came out against the controversial Don't Say Gay law last year, DeSantis revoked the company's privileges to independently operate in the area known as Reedy Creek, which encompasses the land surrounding Walt Disney World. For decades, Disney had been allowed to run there as a self-governing entity, which explains why Donald Duck never had to wear pants to work. In a statement, Disney said it won't fight the bill and that it's, quote, ready to work within this new framework. Gotta say, don't like why Governor DeSantis did this. Also, don't think Disney should be running its own small city inside of the state. That's not what corporations are supposed to do.
Absolutely. Nikki Haley is expected to be the first announced challenger to Donald Trump in the 2024 GOP presidential primaries. The former governor of South Carolina and Trump appointee to the United Nations is set to announce her presidential bid this Wednesday in my hometown of Charleston, as her team plans stops in battleground states New Hampshire and Iowa in the coming weeks. While Haley will be the first since Trump to announce their candidacy, she certainly won't be the last, with Governors Ron DeSantis and Brian Kemp expected to join the Republican primary, or as we like to call them, our nightmare blunt rotation. So stock up on your comfort foods and coping mechanisms. The 2024 presidential election is shaping up to be really, really, really foolish.
I'm just picturing a clown car and they're all climbing out of it. More into it.
There's more coming. I already know it. It's like a who's who of GOP foolishness.
Yep.
I don't know what we're going to do, but we better buckle up.
Great.
And those are the headlines. We'll be back after some ads to confirm what we were all wondering during the Super Bowl halftime show. Well, today is brought to you by Simply Safe. So when I moved to my current apartment in Hollywood, I wanted to treat myself. So I bought myself this really nice purse from a black-owned business. And guess what? The purse was delivered, and then it sprouted legs and walked away from my front door. So if you're like me, you might be worried, okay, about your belongings sometimes just growing legs and walking away. But if you need some extra peace of mind, Simply Safe has you covered. They offer fully customizable whole home home security with advanced sensors to protect every room, window, and door of your home. And the top-rated Simply Safe app gives you complete control over your system. So whether you need crystal clear HD video of your living room or just need to unlock the front door for a guest, you can do it all from your phone, anytime, anywhere. Simply Safe also offers 24/7 professional monitoring for less than $1 a day, which is less than half the price of other home security systems out there. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/whataday. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off your order with interactive monitoring. That's simplysafe.com/whataday. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
What a Day is also brought to you by Nutrafol. Millions of people in the U.S. experience thinning hair, so it's not just common, it's normal. And yet it's not something most people openly talk about, which can make it feel scary and stressful. It's time to change the conversation with Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement, clinically proven to improve your hair growth, thickness, and visible scalp coverage. And because there's more to hair loss than just genetics, Nutrafol has multiple unique formulas to fit all the different factors that may be impacting your hair, regardless of your biology or age. Each one is physician-formulated using natural, medical-grade ingredients for reliable results, and in clinical studies, most people saw improved hair growth after 6 months.
You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and entering the promo code WAD to save $15 off your first month's subscription. This is their best offer anywhere, and it's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time, plus free shipping on every order. Get $15 off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code WAD.
What A Day is brought to you by Books. Consider this your reminder that Valentine's Day is tomorrow. So if your significant other is still insisting that you don't have to get anything for them, don't be foolish. Don't mess this up. Go ahead, get them some flowers, maybe some chocolates or something. You gotta do something.
You gotta do something. You don't want to feel guilty. You don't want to feel bad. You don't want to be shown up. Think of this as a competition.
Yes.
That's the best way to inspire the people to do something for tomorrow. So, just surprise them with farm fresh flowers from Books. That is short for bouquets. Books offers sustainably grown flowers cut fresh and sourced directly from the best farms, so they last way, way longer than flowers from those other sites. And you don't have to settle for just roses. Books has a huge selection of unique designs, including a special collection of flowers grown on the side of a volcano. Did you know that flowers grow on the side of a volcano? I didn't.
I know now.
I know now.
Order Books right now, and while you're at it, sign up for their flower subscription and be the hero all year long. Go to Books.com and use promo code WAD for 25% off. That's BOUQS.com, promo code WAD. Books, promo code WAD.
It's Monday, WAD Squad, and for today's Temp Check, we're talking about Rihanna's long-awaited Super Bowl halftime performance. While the opener took a little longer than we may have hoped, the Fenty Beauty founder performed a markedly straightforward 12-song medley of hits, levitating on a platform and surrounded by a fleet of dancers in her first live performance in 7 years. That's such a long time. No cameos, no quick changes, just hits. And while there was no big album announcement, with a single rub of the belly, Rihanna clued us in on what you could call a new project. Shortly after her performance, her representatives confirmed that the singer is pregnant with her second child. So, Tre'vell, did you tune in? What were some of your favorite moments?
I did. I watched. My thoughts were before we had confirmed, right, that she was pregnant.
Right.
And I'll just say that the halftime performer does not get paid.
Right.
And the type of performance that Rihanna gave us was the performance of someone who doesn't get paid. I'm just going to leave it there. Like, the hits were hitting, don't get me wrong, but it left a lot to be desired.
Right. I have to say, okay, so before we confirmed that she's with child, I was like, this is okay. Her music's great, but the performance itself, fine. Now I'm like, this is the best performance of all time because you have like a 9-month-old at home and you're pregnant. You should be on the couch. Like, as we discussed, she's fully growing another brain right now. Like, if you are doing a performance at all, much less like the most watched musical performance of the year, easily.
Absolutely. I mean, and we should also note, right, that like she's pregnant, right? Like
She's
it wasn't
pregnant.
It wasn't a small belly,
Right.
You know,
Right. No,
Right?
she's like,
it was very obvious,
right?
A pregnant woman, strapped to these floating,
right? Right.
these floating stages. Okay, maybe she tore, right? Maybe she ate that performance up. Actually,
right. Context is everything.
The last thing I will say though is the performance just kind of reiterated how many hits Rihanna has, right?
Oh, my
despite the
gosh.
lukewarm performance itself, I was sitting on the couch singing all the songs.
I had forgotten about some of them too. It's just hit after hit after hit. And it wasn't even all of them.
And it wasn't even all of them.
Number one hits were left out.
Absolutely. Also, shout out to the little cameo of her, Fenty Beauty makeup
That was cute.
moment.
That was cute.
That's how
That was
you
cute.
do your promo, okay? Get
Right.
your free advertising. We love to see it.
This was Rihanna once again reminding us she's a musician second these days.
Right.
She is a entrepreneur first.
And now we're really not getting the album, okay?
Right. Right. That was it. Just like that, we've checked our temps. My temp is like pretty hot now that I know she was pregnant. It was tepid before, I would say.
We'll take it.
One more thing before we go. We are officially in the phase of the George Santos news cycle where it's time to make some merch. The Cricket Store now offers coffee mugs and t-shirts for 3 venerable institutions that George Santos has yet to take credit for starting, but it's only a matter of time before he does. Check out all 3 designs at cricket.com/store.
That's all for today. If you like the show, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, have Rihanna's money, and tell your friends to listen.
And if you are into reading and not just Super Bowl halftime ad QR codes that you will never scan with your phone, like me, What a Day is also a nightly newsletter. Check it out and subscribe at cricket.com/subscribe. I'm Josie Duffy Rice.
I'm Tre'vell Anderson.
And please let our weather balloon live.
Yes, don't get all trigger happy, military,
Truly.
okay? We need this.
Truly. What a Day is a production of Crooked Media. It's recorded and mixed by Bill Lance. Jazzy Marine and Raven Yamamoto are our associate producers. Our head writer is Jossie Kaufman, and our executive producer is Lita Martinez. Our theme music is by Colin Gilliard and Kashaka.
Ever since we got Xfinity Mobile, the whole family now has the fastest mobile service. Back in my day, we didn't have it nearly as good.
Oh yeah? Back in my day, you couldn't even stream outside the house. I don't like to think about it.
Switch to Xfinity Mobile, the fastest mobile service with 5G and millions of Wi-Fi hotspots. Get the best price for 2 unlimited lines with 5G compared to the lowest price plans of the top 3 carriers. Just $30 a line per month. Visit Xfinity.com/fastestmobile to learn more. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Unlimited intro service and Xfinity Internet required. Taxes and fees extra. Reduced speeds after 20 gigabytes of usage. Data thresholds may vary.